Hey everybody, welcome to Chats the Television podcast. This is Alan, editing this episode of SunsetChatz, months after it was recorded. If it wasn't clear already, these episodes were recorded back in the early months of quarantine, and now we are here in the current months of quarantine, living our lives, continuing the Aaron Sorkin dream of doing the damn work. If you have any questions or comments for us, we have our plug zone at the end for you to know where to send those over to. I think this episode's pretty good. I'm about to listen through to it, and I will be back at the end for some special announcements about what's going on in the current days of chats. Please enjoy the episode.
Live from Studio 60 on the SunsetChatz, it's Thursday night in America.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Chats the Television podcast, Season 10, Studio 60 on the SunsetChatz. My name is Alan, and I think I'm in love with you. And if you want to run, you'd better get a good head start, because I'm coming for you, my co-host, Magellan, who's here. Welcome.
I knew it.
You did know it, because it's affectionate, but also extremely creepy and unacceptable.
That's what I would have done for you too, but I would have done the whole speech.
I can't, I
I probably would have made a longer speech.
You would have written onto the speech.
Listen, I've been divorced 10 times. I've killed 2 of my ex-wives. I'm addicted to coke, speed, and
I buried the bodies right beneath us right now.
The novels of John Grisham.
And I live in the basement. Anyways, you want
This
to go out
isn't even
sometime?
my shirt. I found this.
This isn't my real hair, my real face, or my real name. Here's my ID. I'm a dead president. And I'm also joined by another pretty girl at the dance. And this one's not pregnant. It's 6.
It's true, I'm not. It was a lot of work. You caught me at a good time.
It's now been at least 2 episodes where I don't know if I used it in the quote in the other one, but like the whole girls talking about wanting to have babies thing keeps coming up. And now it at least makes plot sense, but still, ugh.
It always made plot sense. You could smell it in the water. This is the kind of show it is.
I want to peel back the curtain for a second and say that Alan presented to Six and I before the show that there was a nice intro and a mean intro. And I guess the mean one is you're a girl who's not pregnant.
Well, okay. If you overthink it too much, then you'll realize that what really happened is I already forgot which one was supposed to be which, and I just kind of said them. And now by dissecting it like this, you're proving my incompetence.
Oh.
Which I don't want to hear on this podcast because it's my show.
Okay, you're right. Sorry, boss.
And I'm the Matt Albie of this pod. No, that's not true. If there's a Matt Albie of this podcast, it's 6.
Yeah, okay.
I love it. If you can't tell already, this is a podcast where we talk about Studio 60 on the Sunset Strip, 2 episodes a week. And this week we watched episode 11, The Christmas Show, as well as episode 12, Monday. The Christmas Show was written, has television credits by Aaron Sorkin. It's got story credits from Christina Kyong-Both and Sink Henderson. It was directed by Dan Atlas, and it originally aired December 3rd, 2006. Mitchell, can you tell me what happened in this episode?
In this episode, with a holiday show on the horizon, Matt is determined to bring the Christmas spirit to Studio 60. Meanwhile, following a visit to the OBGYN, Danny has to confront his true feelings for Jordan. Harriet is offered a career-changing opportunity. Tom and Simon jump at the opportunity to assist the writing team to write Christmas-based sketches in order to enjoy the company of a certain member of the writing team. However, their presence is seen as more of a hindrance. When Danny discovers that band members from various TV shows intend to call in sick in an effort to help musicians who have been homeless since Hurricane Katrina, he takes the opportunity to create an entire band from New Orleans musicians who play a centerpiece on the show.
Ugh.
Lots of opportunity. This is that's what Christmas brings. It's the magic of opportunity. It was weird that Matt, because he's been so not religious.
Oh, buddy, you haven't been paying attention.
What are you saying?
I love you. Magellan?
What are you saying?
I love you.
You think he did it for Harriet as a flirt?
Every single Aaron Sorkin show has an episode where the grouch is like, well, I'm the only one here who really cares about Christmas, and all the other liberals are too liberal to appreciate Christmas. Every single Aaron Sorkin show has this.
He did this in other ones too?
Oh my God, are you kidding me?
Did he do this in
always does
Newsroom?
this.
I don't remember when
He
he
might-
was in the Newsroom.
He might not have done it in Newsroom.
But
He
in the
definitely
West
did it.
Wing?
He definitely did it in West Wing, and I'm pretty sure he did it in Sports Night. He can't stop himself.
It's insufferable. It's insufferable. The Christmassy part, not insufferable. Cute. It's cute that Matt likes Christmas. The fact that we have to hear all of these characters be like, actually, it was in the middle of June and it was only 3 miles. And it's like, this isn't funny. You read a page, you read a website, and it wrote your script.
It's a bunch of kids on a Reddit thread being like, so Santa's based on a drawing, but that this guy was commissioned to do. That's propaganda. So basically, it's all fake, and you're consumers for believing it.
And they're saying it to Matt Albee, who's like, yeah, I know. I'm not the Christmas believer guy. I just think it's nice. So, I don't know. That annoyed me. There are other things that I liked in the episode.
I am not a Christmas person, but if you think Christmas, like, I respectfully, right? Like, if you think Christmas in a larger cultural sense is actually about the fact of the events rather than us coming together during a season that is traditionally, like, nature-wise, the hardest part of the year and finding a reason to be happy together, then you're stupid.
Yes. It makes you look dumb.
Both of these episodes start with some really bad Jordan and Danny stuff. This one's the less egregious, but it features Jordan going with Danny Danny going with Jordan to the OBGYN.
There you go. You did it.
I think I did it last week too. I'm impressed in myself, or one of us did. Where she's like talking up to all the people, and she like yell. What does she yell at all the people? She's like asking. Oh, it's like, hey, are the guys that are with you not your partner or your dad or?
Yeah, it's like raise your hand if you're not the husband or the father.
And it's like nobody would do that in a hospital. As someone who's been in a lot of this type of setting, you just would be like, don't talk, please, no, yeah. But everyone on an Aaron Sorkin show is the person that would say that, so I guess it makes sense.
Well, and then Danny raises his hand, and she's like, "Stop! You're embarrassing me." It's like,
yeah, and it's like you.
What?
I do appreciate though that the doctor in this scene is a really his favorite Studio 60 sketch is the Nicolas Cage one, and he just does the classic fanboy thing of being like, I love when he does doctor and writer and lawyer, and he names all of them.
That's cute.
He's just like, I love it how he has all those jobs.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
like, wow.
Can't relate.
The thing about Studio 60 is that it has everything it needs to like make fun of SNL for being bad, but it never does it on purpose. Like, I was editing the last episode, and just the idea of Peripheral Vision Man is clearly supposed to be like a dig at SNL, but not really. And this also is kind of like, you could do this, you could notch this up a couple of degrees, and this becomes more acerbic. But it's just kind of like, yeah, I think it's funny.
I mean, you could be like, do David as Pumpkins. I love it. It's my favorite. It's my favorite of your sketches. And it's like, yeah, I'm Tom
Danny's
Hanks.
like, I actually don't do that sketch.
I wasn't part of that sketch. That was
yeah, I don't write the show.
Do the skeletons bit. Do the skeletons. I do. That's literally the only good SNL sketch when I think of like my favorites personally. Is that one, and then maybe that Ryan Gosling one. That's like the digital sketch where he hates the fact that they used papyrus in Avatar. That's a pretty good sketch. That's just because it's scripted and Ryan Gosling is charming. I digress though. We're trying to write a Christmas special, and I had this moment early on in the episode where I was like, why did it take us this long to get like a cast that I like? Like we're 11 episodes into the show, and I'm finally like, all right, there's Lucy and Darius and Simon. Like, yeah, everyone's here. And it just feels like this show had this weird early period where like none of these people mattered and didn't exist yet.
Well, they didn't. I mean, a couple of them, the ones you just named, weren't in the show yet.
Literally weren't in the show. Yeah. Like, so I feel like we're finally at a point where I enjoy everyone. And recalling that other episode where, there was the whole like shooting event. I thought they were going to bring another real life moment in here, talking about how there was an earthquake and they were trying to see who was affected. But it seems like that plot line didn't go anywhere.
It's California. We have earthquakes here. This just
but that's
happens.
the thing, is that they would just be like, is everyone okay? Like, yes. Okay, no one died. All right, great.
Really, I mean, like, we have, it is shocking to think of the 10 breaking in half. That's pretty screwed up. The 10
Yeah.
is a big deal. But like, yeah, no, we have earthquakes here. And you're like, did anyone get hurt? And if someone says no, you're like, oh, okay. And you move on. That actually I super bought.
That's but the whole like it just felt like it was building. Like if you're gonna make a TV script, I guess that's mostly to remind people like, hey, we're in LA and that matters. Like our setting is important to us, both in the culture and the way that people talk and act around each other. But it was just a little odd to me, especially because this episode also features another like natural disaster that does factor into the plot line in a weird way.
I guess the only reason for that was to explain why they couldn't get like a snow machine. And they had to use coconuts. Is that it?
Oh,
I think that was
yeah,
the
it was
only
to set up that.
reason.
But actually, now that you mention that, Alan, this is
Yeah,
such
what's
a
up?
missed opportunity for them to connect the two things. For them to be like,
Right,
wow, okay,
right.
y'all were displaced by this natural event disaster, and we're dealing with our own right now, and have it connect. God!
a mild earthquake is basically the Hurricane Katrina of Los Angeles. Like what?
No, you just be like, wow, if we're having this much trouble over this minor a thing, we can really empathize with what you're going through. You could write something.
Sorkin doesn't do
Wow.
empathy though. He does sympathy.
No,
you know?
that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. That's true.
That's the problem.
I don't want to go down every single scene of the episode because I do want to talk about the Katrina stuff and how weirdly it's handled. But another one of my favorite early scenes was the like reintroduction of Jack Rudolph here, where he's like talking to someone in a meeting, and then he's like, "Close the door, please." And I don't know, as somebody in like my last job, every time I hear the term "close the door, please," and from watching Mad Men, I have a deep-seated anxiety from that term where I'm like, someone's getting killed, someone's getting fired.
Yeah, it's never good.
No, you never say close the door if it's like good news you're getting promoted. Jack Rudolph like comes through in his scene and says like,
I'm gonna get a gun. I swear to God I am.
Take your medicine.
There is no medicine. There's no law.
and he's firing on all cylinders immediately. And he's
what I
talking
loved
about
is the whole thing is about how basically there was a news broadcast from Afghanistan, and a reporter's interviewing a soldier. There's a rocket-propelled grenade that explodes overhead, and the soldier says "fuck," and that's a big problem because now the FCC is going to fine ACN. Nope, that's the newsroom.
That's the news.
NBS.
Well, he does. I understand why you're confused because Jack Rudolph does say we did the news.
He literally says we did the news. I wrote that in my notes.
I liked it, honestly.
I liked it too. I thought that was great. That was definitely the seed planted that where Sorkin was like, we should do the news.
I like that one plot that I did in that other show.
I mean, this feels like a newsroom plot because
Yeah, it does.
it's all about his integrity and trying to figure out how to like navigate the FCC and stuff like that. Like this is a pretty good plot line, also because it features my favorite man, Jack Rudolph.
I thought it was a funny, subtle joke, by the way, and then we can talk more about it. That the whole plot is about like this profanity that he's not allowed to say. And right before he starts talking about it, he goes, "Son of a holy godforsaken bitch," which is clearly Aaron Sorkin's way of being like, "I'm going to write the worst sentence I can possibly write and get past the censors, and then talk about how much the censors are stupid."
Yeah. There was a couple of things where I was like, this must have been fun to explain to the cast of Studio 60. Like, as I understand it, Amanda Peet's character of Jordan has a pregnancy plotline because she was pregnant at the time. So I just imagine her coming up to his office, like as if someone's going up to Matt Albee and being like, "Hey, so the test came back positive and I'm pregnant." And he's like, what are we going to do? And they spend like a whole day racking their minds over it. Like the Studio 60 existing within the filming of Studio 60, the show, seems very interesting to me. And hopefully more realistic than all of this nonsense about censors and whatnot. I wonder if that's as big of a deal these days. I mean, cable news is still,
The FCC still exists. I mean,
absolutely, I know, but I wonder, like specifically, what later on one of the like the board members or one of the FCC people tells Jack is, the NPR was able to air the John Gotti tapes where he says a bunch of bad words because he's a bad person. People know he's a bad person, but if you have a soldier saying bad words, then that's bad. Because it's 2006 and we still have this like powerful reverence for the military.
Yeah,
it just felt like that was a like mark in time of this series being like, guys, we don't save that. And like, remember that episode with Tom, like, giving money with his brother and all that stuff. It's like,
yeah, the army stuff was way more central.
The characters in the show definitely like care about the military, or at least the higher ups somewhat.
Well, I think if you made this same plot line today, the only thing you would change is people would be saying like, "What are you talking about? It's 2020," and someone would say, "Not to the FCC, it's not."
Ooh, yeah, they're stuck in 2006, and we're in 2026.
Because I mean, 2006 is generous to the FCC. Hey, FCC, turns to the camera. I'm putting you on notice.
You're on blast. You're canceled.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when I trained for the college radio station, it was a big part of the training to be like, you can't. You have to not say.
No swearing.
Because, and you have, like, also you had to listen through any of the songs you wanted to put on the air because those couldn't have curse words in them either, because that could get the station in trouble.
Yeah.
So it's like, I mean, and that was as recent as 2012, 2013, something like that. So
yeah, it's a different time though, but you can kind of see some echoes of this stuff being an issue today, like the whole no cursing and no, like, making the military look bad sort of thing. Mm-hmm. But Jack's really grumpy, and we then pivot back to our main crew with Meta Weaver's character, Suzanne, who I only know because I realized in the interim of this recording, the last one, that she has gone on to play on HBO's Run. She's the main character of Ruby Richardson, which is I like the show Run a lot. It's very silly, and as of this recording, it's about to be over with its 7-episode season. And if you haven't watched it, I've already ChatzKidz it long ago, and it's wonderful, and she's wonderful. It's nice to see my girl get more like talking scenes. She has this whole bit about like, I got sand in my towel, and she like does her the most relatable thing finally is she's like, I do my laundry at the office because I don't want to spend money on laundry at home. Then we get the Harriet plot line where she's out for lunch with her agent, whose name is Luke. He looks like, how would y'all describe this Luke fella? He looks like Chris, the guy, the comedy guy. What's his name? He's in What Hot American Summer as the guy who has sex with the
comedy guy. Chris, the guy. Sorry, he's as who?
In What Hot American Summer, he's the guy who Chris Maloney.
Oh yeah,
he looks like kind of a weird Chris, like a less muscular but bigger Chris Maloney.
Yeah, like a sort of dehydrated Chris Maloney.
Exactly.
A little bit, yeah, bronzed up, drained of some of his coolness. Yeah, he
big time.
He's good casting for like
you immediately know you see this guy and you're like, yucko.
This guy. Ugh. And like Matt is being way more of a shithead than this guy is, but you still, just because of the casting, you're like, ugh, this guy. Oh my god.
Yeah, we get a scene with him later where we're supposed to be because but like I was fighting against my own reaction, because it's the scene where he goes to ask Harriet, because he's talking to Harriet, and Harriet's like, oh, it's ridiculous. Matt says you're doing this because you want to ask me out. And he's like, oh, I mean, I do. Like, I mean, that's unrelated. You earned this position because you're really talented and you're the perfect person. But yes, I would like to date you. Yeah. And we're supposed to
several times.
We're supposed to feel repulsed, but it's like, honestly, he's being really upfront about this in a way that seems fine to me, actually.
Right. In a way that Matt is 100% not.
Yes, yeah, totally. That was one of the things I wrote in my notes was like, he's the only honest one in that three-way love triangle that shouldn't exist.
Like Matt was really douchey in this episode to Harriet, because she has this lunch with Luke where she's like, oh, your assistant set up a lunch, blah blah blah, and he's like, I want to cast you in the Rolling Stones movie as someone who everyone
like important
knows.
Character,
yeah,
not B tier character, but like important character.
Yeah, a supporting actress role, but like a major character in this Rolling Stones biopic thing. And she's like, oh my god, that's great. And then she goes to talk to Danny about it and runs into Matt, and she's like, I want to talk to Danny because you're a jerk and you won't let me do it. And he's like, what is it? And he's like, oh my god, most perfect part for you. And Matt is like a normal guy, and he's so sweet about it and understanding, and like he's putting his jealousy aside. And Harriet's like, wow, this is cool. You're being cool. She walks away, and then Matt says, and he's doing it to get with you, to marry you. And
you didn't realize that because you're dumb.
Yeah. And then she's like, you think he wants to sleep with me? And he's like, no, he wants to marry you and sleep with other women. And it's like, Matt, stop. What are you doing? Like, he just couldn't let it go. So gross.
Let this woman exist. Let her make her own decision. Like, it's
Right.
just, it feels very, I guess, parentalist is the word. Like, hey, I know what's better for you. Like, I know what this guy's trying to do.
Yeah,
and you don't
not
seem to
even
get it.
parentalist. Like, he just wants control over Harriet, right? Because that's also what motivates. He doesn't have an arc of becoming a better dude in this episode. He doesn't apologize to her. The sort of climactic moment of their plot is right before she goes out on stage. He pushes her against a wall and kisses her, and then like walks away because he wants to control her. So he like sexually assaults her backstage in order to maintain control. It's really gross, and the show wants to play it because of how it's shot and the music behind it as like, oh my gosh, so romantic.
So many scenes in both of these episodes feel like systematic beat by beat like deconstructions of every character that we've come to like so far, and be like, actually, everyone kind of sucks in different ways. Like Simon is like a pedant who will correct everybody on history because he read the Bible, and he has a whole scene with Darius later that we have to talk about. Tom, same thing. He wants to date Lucy and doesn't seem to know how to talk to people. Matt is possessive with Harriet. Harriet's foolish and doesn't know how to like make her own decisions. Danny,
Right.
like it just, you could go down the list and just be like all these characters.
Darius remains. I still have yet to object to anything Darius has done. Yeah,
Unimpeachable. The one beacon of good. And,
which is why he should be the POV character.
he really should.
100%.
What a waste.
110%.
Because then you really could do this Matt and Danny shittiness. And I think the ways that they're shitty are believable ways that like these powerful Hollywood, superstar guys are shitty. But the show portrays what they do, but then they're still the main characters, they're still the protagonists, so we still have to have this sort of hero conversation between them of like, hey, I just forcibly kissed my ex-girlfriend backstage. What did you do tonight? Oh, I took a woman aside while she was in the middle of eating a sandwich and told her I would stalk her for months. Cool. Nicely done, bro.
And now we're going to start dating, hopefully, maybe, if it works out for him. Couple of like funny scenes though come up here. We have like everybody in the writer's room pitching like Christmas sketches, and I believe it's Darius who keeps being like, guys, the three wise guys. And they're like, no, we got all this other stuff going on. We got to do a coconut. We got to get snow. And he's like, no, the three wise guys. Like, it's like, the guys from Goodfellas, but they're the three wise men. And they're like, no, shut up. Like, he wrote the...
That's fine.
Yeah, totally. And Simon's continuing to be annoying, and then Wes comes in. The only thing Wes does in both of these episodes, besides like walk and talk with people, is he brings a coconut. Like, oh yeah, this will be easy to crack, and they're like,
Cal.
No, it's not. They literally have tools
Cal.
for that,
It's
and he's
Cal,
like,
not Wes.
oh, Cal, excuse me, I wrote Wes here, but yeah, Wes is the guy from the first episode.
Mm-hmm.
Cal attempts to break the coconut against the table, but breaks the whole writer's room table in half.
I guffawed. I laughed out loud. That was so funny.
So goofy.
I was like, it was such a classic like Sorkin like basically slapstick that I wasn't on board until I saw the laptop sliding into the new crack between the halves, and I was like,
That was
that's
good.
It gave me the same feeling as the early Mad Men scene where they ride the riding mower in the office, and you're
and then it runs over the guy's foot.
Yeah, well, before that part happens.
Oh, just the absurdity,
Just
like
the
in a
absurdity
dramatic
of
series.
like, what are we doing in this place of work? It reminded me of that, so I thought it was
Definitely
a good gag.
Yeah, it's definitely like a visually successful gag. It does what it needs to do.
I also
and
like
then
I also like the Santa gag later, where they have like a little figurine of Santa, and Matt's like, you can't use this. He's doing the Heil
doing a
Hitler
Nazi salute. Yeah.
And Cal's like, no, he's not. He's saying hi.
He's waving to the reindeer. Where are they? They can't see him. And he's like, no, he's doing the Nazis.
The way that he plays that the actor who plays Cal plays that is so funny, because he's like, he clearly agrees, and he's just like, can I convince Matt that he's wrong so I don't have to
I don't
want to
get the new prop.
I don't want to do more work.
he's like, well, now that you say it, it's all I can see. He's also got kind of the evil eyes, doesn't he?
Yeah, we should probably get rid of this. Yeah. And then there's Harriet tells Matt the news about her movie thing, and then he's like, your guy wants to marry you and sleep around with other women. And then this is bonkers. She punches him in the stomach, and she's like, ow. And then she keeps doing it every time he talks.
I forgot about that.
I can't even laugh at this because it's just so naked. Like, she punches him, and he's like, why are your abs so hard? He's like, leg lifts with Genie. And, like, Matt is Aaron Sorkin's fucking substitute.
See,
like,
I can laugh at it because it's so blatant. I'm like, this is
just,
Aaron Sorkin being like, yeah, I'm ripped. Also, it's hilarious.
It's so
how
pathetic
sad
because
it
it's
is.
not like it's played for comedy, but it's not fake. Like she's like, yeah, your abs hurt because they're so strong. What the fuck?
It's amazing. I love it, and
It also just
absolutely not in the way Sorkin wants me to.
No, exactly. He doesn't. You're not like, man, Matt Albee's a cool guy. You're like, this guy.
Also,
sucks
another
ass.
layer of like Matt being horrible because he wasn't just like, I've been working out. He's like, it's from fucking Genie all the time, basically, is what he's saying. And he's being such a like big baby about Luke, but he's still throwing Genie in Harriet's face. It's like, dude, what the fuck is wrong with you? You're I don't know.
Nothing a few more leg lifts can't fix.
Right.
This scene pivots to my favorite moment that I should have known was foreshadowing the ruination of Danny Tripp, which is she's like, I'll talk to Danny. We have serious, important, private business to talk to. Hey, Danny. And she looks in his room and he's just like face down like, like having a stress attack. And I was like, we finally got like the relatable experience of what being a writer is like. It's just surrounded by your work being like, I don't know how to do anything.
Well, but that's
Except
not why
worried.
he's stressed.
No, exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
We learn later that he's stressed about Jordan.
Right. He wants to tell Jordan that he loves her, which I thought was endearing in this episode. And then we'll talk about the next episode, how it just is the most disgusting and upsetting thing. But in this episode, all the Danny Jordan stuff I actually thought was cute. Like how...
Except for the last speech. The last speech is pretty...
The last
one
speech
that I
is
quoted,
a lot. Yeah. It's like problematic in a sort of, Sorkin man kind of way. But it feels very true to Danny of like, this is how I tell someone I love them. It's like kind of weird and like too honest. So I also didn't mind that speech, and the line of like, I'm coming for you, Jordan, is can be a little cute, although I do acknowledge the problematic aspects of it. But the lead up to it was nice, of all the times that Matt's like, yeah, you, the scene that I really liked was when they were talking about the upfronts, and Matt's like, what's she going to do about the upfronts? And Danny's like, oh yeah, what is she going to do? She's going to get her assistant to do it? She can't do that. Is she going to do this? Oh, she can't move the date. And Matt's like, why are you spending time on this? It was a passing thing. I asked, and then I immediately started thinking about something else. I thought that was really funny. And the way that the interplay between Bradley Whitford and Matthew Perry is very cute in all of those scenes.
In the way that Matt finds out about all of this stuff, where he's like, why do you keep asking questions about, why do you keep worrying about Jordan? Like he kind of figures it out, it seems like.
Yeah. And he lets his friend be the one. He isn't like, you're in love with Jordan, aren't you? He's like, okay, we both know that I know and you know. So take your time, Mr. Guy who cannot express his emotions at all.
Yeah. Yep. But yeah, so we get to the FCC part that I talked about earlier, where the whole John Gotti NPR thing happens, and I like that. So we were talking earlier about like character assassinations, ruining characters that we already like, and Jack Rudolph has Jordan come in. He's like, oh, she's just super, like she's just here to observe. And now that we have established that Jordan is pregnant, a lot of scenes in this episode and the next one are just her being the cartoon pregnant woman who is hungry all the time. Like all of her scenes are like, ooh, pastries, and it's like, does Aaron Sorkin not like know how pregnant people work? Like, it's not just hunger. Like that's such a common trope of like, I have cravings and so I'm always eating, and that's how you know I'm a pregnant woman. Is I just really want all the food in the room and I don't know how to be competent otherwise.
Yeah, it sucks.
There is an extremely funny moment of it later, but again, I laughed at this not because of the way that Sorkin wanted me to laugh, but because I thought it was just relatable. But that's in the second one. So they're talking about, FCC, you gotta make sure you have to censor that or else you're gonna have to spend millions of dollars, which will probably mean they have to shut down the network or retire. And then we establish this really weird side plot that we don't think is gonna come back, where one of the trumpet players is being watched by another, network guy from a different show, on MBS. And he's like, wow, that trumpet guy's really good. And he's like, yeah, he's a substitute. One of his friends, asked him to come in and work. And then I think it's Danny, or no, it's Matt who goes up to him and he's like,
No, it's Danny.
Are you, it's Danny. And he goes, yeah, where are you from? And he's like, oh, I'm his friend. Let's not worry about it. He's like, what's your name? He's like, no, don't, I'm just a guy. I'm just a trumpet guy. And I'm going, wait, trumpet. And then I think he says at this point, he says New Orleans. And then I'm like, uh-oh. And I Googled it and it's like, yeah, Hurricane Katrina was August 2005. So this is very prescient that they're doing a Katrina thing in this episode. And that comes back later because basically in the actual episode, somebody asks for 4 minutes of extra time, cut a couple of sketches, and they use it to end the episode on honestly, I think it was 4 minutes on the dot performance, from all of these different musicians on the band from New Orleans, being it's a tribute to the city. And it's a nice scene, it's a nice song, and it's
beautiful.
A feel good. Yeah, it's a beautiful, feel good kind of rah-rah moment, we're all, solidarity.
I mean, it definitely felt manipulative, right?
Yes.
Very emotionally manipulative. The performance on its own, abstracted from the context of the show, was really beautiful. But then using it to do all of this character movement and hey, I love you, man stuff is what are you doing right now, Sorkin? Matt just forcibly kissed Harriet and now you're making me ignore that, I guess. Yeah,
all the whole quote unquote wholesome things happening in the background of with the music playing are not all good. Yeah, but between then and now we have everyone setting up for the episode for the week. And I laughed out loud at the sketch, the whole To Catch a Predator Santa Claus. It's not that clever, because Tom is basically playing Chris Hansen and the big guy is playing Santa Claus, and they do the whole you come down the chimney and he's like, why are you here? Why are you going to a 12-year-old girl's room? That's so funny. This joke's very 2006, obviously. To Catch a Predator, not a big deal anymore.
Yeah,
but I laughed. I was like, oh, that's fair. That's kind of well done. It's well performed.
Yeah, it's the same as the Howie Mandel thing from last time, where it's that's good enough that I could believe that they would do that.
Yeah, you say okay, sure.
SNL.
Okay, yeah, I'm not mad at this for once.
And that's all you need to do with the sketches in this show, is you just need to go, okay, sure, yeah,
right. And then they use that, and then Ed Asner's character is watching the episode with his grandchildren, which is nice. That's very much another manipulative moment of look, he's human. We're about to make him really nice and human, and he's not weird and just yelling about MACAO all the time. You need to accept that he's a dude now. And he's basically telling Jack is I'll probably resign if we don't take this case to court or whatever. And Wilson's yeah, no, fuck the FCC. I'll take it all the way to court if I have to. You're right. The standards matter for a reason. We're not following their orders. I want my kids to meet you, or my grandkids to meet you. It's nice. I want to talk more about that stuff in the second episode, though, because it doesn't really go anywhere here. And yeah, that final scene with the music playing, and Danny goes up to Jordan and he says, "Hey, this is another Six talking earlier about Sorkin-y, moments." And it's very Sorkin-y for the broken sad man to be listen, I'm broken and sad, and my life isn't successful, but that doesn't mean that I'm not good enough for you. Please date me.
So hang on a minute.
Hanging.
Harriet is his ex, right?
Yes.
And Matt is him. Is Danny Tommy Schlamme?
Yes.
I think so, but I don't know if I don't know if this is a Tommy thing.
Either, you know what? No matter what you're saying here, I'm going to go ahead and apologize to Thomas Schlamme for this one. That sucks, Doc. I'm sorry.
Yeah, they were broing out one night, and Tommy Schlamme told Aaron Sorkin about how he struck out with the beautiful network executive, and Sorkin was like, and he takes out his secret notes. Recording device or whatever. Keep going.
Yeah, he's basically I love you, and if you want to run, you probably should, but you'd better get a head start, because I'm coming for you, Jordan. What the fuck? come on. Like, I watch this scene, and it doesn't wig me out because I know, first of all, Aaron Sorkin doesn't know how to write stuff like this, and two, it's '06. Like, I'm sorry, this is a weirdly dated way to, like, do courtship. It's like, I will pursue you.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think I agree. In the abstract, it is. I think there also is truth to the fact that if there was a clear vibe with someone and it was someone that you were into who came up to you and was like, I'm coming for you, Alan, you'd be like, ooh, right? Like, wouldn't you like that a little bit? I would like
mean,
that.
maybe. I can't speak to it exactly. I do think, like you were saying earlier, both Matt and Danny's moments in this, while fucked up, are like honest. And I think that's one of the things that we give Sorkin a lot of crap for, is that his characters can suck sometimes. But like, that's clearly the point a little bit. Is like, this is a weird way to do this, but it matters. Like, he means it with his whole heart when he says that.
Right. I think the difference between like what Matt does and what Danny does is, what Matt does is gross and invasive and also an act of like machismo dominance.
Yeah.
What Danny's doing here is like, he's still putting on the facade of like, I'm a macho guy, which is why he says shit like, I'm coming for you, Jordan. But he's really scared and he's really putting himself out there. And he kind of says that as just a way to like leave the conversation because he's so nervous, you know?
Yeah. It's an anxious response.
Yeah. And so I do think that, again, that there are things about what he says that are like questionable and problematic, but also it's coming from a place of, like you said, feeling really vulnerable. It's just that then the second episode kind of fucks that read over and makes it gross. So, yeah.
Six, what do you think about relationship stuff? I know you're a big fan.
It's all fake.
It's definitely all fake. This is acting. I went into these notes, Magellan. It's acting. Magellan, I went into these notes saying I refuse to be the one that says that Danny sucks now. Like, I went into episode 1 and even finished it, and I was like, no, I'm not going to be the one that says that this final scene is bad. I'm going to use it in the intro, and we're going to talk about it sincerely, and I'm not going to be mean to Danny. Like, that's not reasonable. Cut
Sure.
to
Okay.
the first scene of the second episode.
Well, are we going into the second episode already?
Do y'all have any other stray notes about this first one?
No, I want to talk about episode 2.
Yeah, episode 2's got the meat is the thing.
Well, I have some stray notes.
Go for it.
So, all right, I'm going to go for it. Let's see, I had a couple general thoughts that I wanted to put out there first. One of them is related to the last episode with the whole like sponsorship thing. We didn't see that realized in this episode, right? We didn't see the new set or anything.
Oh, the billboard or the new set. Yeah, we did not.
In between our recording of the last one and this one, I watched all of the Dana Carvey show, and the Dana Carvey show does sponsorship way exactly the way that a real sketch show would do it, because it's a real sketch show. So they do things like, welcome to their first episode is called the Taco Bell Dana Carvey Show. Like, they just do it. They do the thing that they joked in the previous episode of like, what, you want us to call it the Coca-Cola Studio 60? And it's like, yeah, you would do that because you're comedians. And they do stuff where they're like people dressed as Mug Root Beer doing a dancing opening number, singing about Mug Root Beer. And it's like, okay, yeah, this is how they would do it. And there's a sketch where they're looking at a glass of Mountain Dew, and Dana Carvey's like, what does that look like? And the other person there is like trying really hard not to say that it looks like pee, and keeps giving like euphemisms for what it looks like, which Mountain Dew is really upset with. But I think that's how a sketch show would do it. So all of the sort of like hand wringing from the last episode, they're real life examples that make that not make sense. I have the suspicion that they got rid of the whole writing staff so they wouldn't have to pay those extras anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is a recurring thing where they talk about the show having financial problems in ways that in real life I think they were having financial problems.
I think Studio 60 at this point is definitely showing its financial. We are exactly halfway through the series as of episode 11, and you can smell financial problems. Yeah.
What do you think MACAO actually is?
Oh, like what's the real life equivalent of
Yeah.
it?
Oh, the allegory of
Yeah,
Macao.
Aaron Sorkin's like, I just bet big on the Powerball. That's our Macau.
He's wandering around the set at midnight muttering about Macau.
Like, Aaron, we closed a while ago. Go home. Aaron.
I invested a lot in farms. It's like it's raising cows. It's Macau.
Cows. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, that was nothing.
No, hey, I liked it.
That's something.
I had the thought, either this episode or the second one, of like, this doesn't really need to be a sketch show. It could just be a show about making TV, and that would cover most of what Aaron Sorkin's interested in doing, especially in the next one, where there's this whole character who's all about like putting on a reality TV show or whatever. Like, he's trying to tell these like TV production stories that get away from it being about a sketch show. So then it's like, just make it the like, we're making a show about the UN or whatever, the show. Like, just make the show that you want to make, which is, here's the time we spent making the newsroom.
Yeah.
I guess the only reason is because like the live aspect of it adds drama, and the comedy adds some levity or whatever, but I don't know.
Well, the comedy also adds a tension of like, what can we do that like we have to appease an audience, like we have to make an audience laugh and think a little bit. That's something that was more prevalent, I think, in the first couple of episodes that they've kind of slipped past. Is now it's more a show about a TV network and the people who run in it.
A couple Jack and Jordan things. I really thought it was so cute the way that Jack reacted to Jordan being pregnant, where he was like,
that was a good scene.
Congratulations. There was no problem. He didn't yell at her. He was just like, that's really great.
Well, because it's this duality of where he's like trying to be nice and be like, congratulations, but also he's trying to talk about this deal, and he's like, but good for you. Wait, do you know what gender it is? But like the deal, like, oh my god, the FCC. But like, good job, proud of you. Good for you.
And she's like trying to push and be like, we should do this thing, and he's like, I can't yell at you right now.
You're pregnant.
Like, we can't have this argument. I have to be nice right now.
And then later, when she comes to the meeting, she says, can I sit in on the meeting? And he says, no. How did you pass my secretary? And she says, by saying I was invited to sit in on the meeting. Let's see.
Was I harsh when I talked about the Jordan pregnancy stuff being weird?
No, I think it's really stupid. It's really not well handled at all. Because she already was like she was already a character that was getting too much like comic relief moments thrown at her, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And now she's just she's like got her mouth full all the time.
Yeah.
I'm sure that Amanda P must have been really annoyed that she had to eat on all those takes.
Yeah, apparently, yeah. As we've learned from like a little bits of production here and there, eating on a TV show is the worst because you have to do those takes 100 times.
Right.
Keep taking that bite of that Danish.
There was a reference to Heath Ledger being in the movie that Harriet was going to be in. Weird. That's some 2006 energy right there. Yeah. Tom and Simon are gross. Them hitting on Lucy is gross.
Lucy's a really terrible character.
Lucy's role in the show is to be flirted with and to be sad that she's not in a relationship.
Yep. And to be the emotional woman. It's really, really, really bad.
Yes, big time.
And then my last thing is I did laugh in the Danny professing his love speech when it cuts to the cross shot of Jordan with her mouth full, just staring at him dumbfounded. I thought that was pretty funny. Yeah. And then I also laughed when he said, "You should go ahead and chew that sandwich." And then he walks away. But we can talk about the next one now. Speaking of Danny and Jordan.
Yes. The true deconstruction of Danny Tripp.
Yeah. I just want to hold a memorial service right now for Danny, for cool Danny, because
a candlelight vigil for good Danny.
Yeah, I don't think we're gonna see good Danny anymore. I think he's gone.
He's been replaced by his tulpa.
Yeah.
It's like Twin Peaks.
Yeah. Is that the thing from Twin Peaks?
Yeah, you should watch season 3.
Okay.
They get that's like what they get into. It's awesome. What was that?
Nothing. Continue.
Okay. So the episode starts with just a painful montage of Danny
This episode's
Tripp.
called Monday, by the way. Sorry, I don't know.
Also, what that was I was I was gonna comedically play like Oregon funeral music on my phone, but then I got a YouTube ad, so I canceled the bit.
Love 2020.
Yeah, we should talk about the details of the episode. So this episode is Monday. The teleplay was by Aaron Sorkin, story by Dana Calvo and David Handelman. It was directed by Lawrence Trilling, whose name I recognized. Have we watched shows that were directed by Lawrence Trilling, Alan?
There's definitely a lot of Lawrences in TV production.
I think Lawrence Trilling has directed episodes of Scrubs, which is why I recognized it.
He's also produced. He produced most of Pushing Daisies.
Okay, so he's
maybe
been
that's where
around. I think maybe Lawrence, from Pushing Daisies.
And he's directed. Yes, he's directed episodes of Scrubs. That's correct.
Okay, so anyway, Lawrence Trilling is the director. The episode originally aired January 21st, 2007. So we have gone on hiatus. This is the mid-season premiere. And Alan, what took place in Monday?
Ooh, I get the title as Monday because it's like the day after vacation, and it suddenly makes sense to me. In this episode, the cast and staff come back from their holiday break and prepare for the first show of the new year, with Danny in full pursuit of Jordan. Matt starts bidding in an online auction for a day with Harriet to compete with Luke Scott, a film director interested in Harriet, both on and off screen. That's not correct, by the way? He's not a film director, he's her agent, I thought?
No, he's not her agent. He arranged the meeting through an agent.
Oh!
Yeah, he's directing
I was confused.
the movie.
Okay, he's directing that movie. Gotcha. Sorry. Jordan is introduced to Hallie, played by Stephanie Childers, the newly appointed vice president of alternative programming, but unfortunately doesn't get off on the right foot with her due to referring to her area of specialty as illiterate programming. Finally, Jordan makes a plea for Danny to stop pursuing her, claiming it's embarrassing. However, he says that he won't. So this episode is bookended by probably the two worst Danny Tripp scenes of the series. The first one's just sad, and the second one's just unsettling.
Yeah.
We open with Danny calling Jordan on her cell phone after the last rap party of the year. And he's like, I miss you. And like, I'm excited to see you. And maybe I could take you out to dinner sometime. This is what happens when you have too much confidence. This is like, he has now the self-confidence to start asking her out, but not the self-awareness to know that that's not requited. That's how I read this. And we get the 1, 2, 3 punch of him being like, well, you should go out when you come back. And she's like, yeah, for sure. I'm on a plane though. Like, I'm going for Christmas. And then we cut and he calls her again and she's in her sweater in her nice house. And he's like, what are you up to? I know it's like Christmas Eve. And, if you're bored, it's like a church service in LA. It's going to be pretty dope. And she's like, I'm home. And he's like, all right, well, maybe on the New Year. She says, well, I'm going to the Virgin Islands on the New Year. He's like, all right, well, whatever, have fun. And then he calls her again, and she's getting a spa treatment at the Virgin Islands. And he's like, I got this new phone. She's like, did you change your number? He's like, yeah, I got a new phone. I could edit a feature-length film with this phone. And she's like, where are you right now? And he's like, no, I'm at home. I'm just chilling on vacation. And she's like, Danny, I can hear the studio. I know the acoustics of the studio. You're at work. He's like, no. And then Matt Albie's in the back yelling, and she's like, you're with Matt, aren't you? And he's like, maybe. Like, I thought this scene went on for about 35 minutes, and it turns out it was like 3 minutes.
It was eternal.
It was so uncomfortable and sad. What'd you think?
Oof, it was a lot. I mean, I if it had just been half as long, if he had just called her like once or twice and then she hung up on him, it would have been fine. But he just keeps calling and calling. I think the one thing the scene does a good job of is showing how quickly a break can pass and how it can actually feel like not restful at all if there's like stuff going on, because it's like we're already back to work pretty much right away. But it was gross.
This is a span of like multiple flights for her and a full vacation, and she comes back and she's like, oh my God, we're still in this. Oh God.
And listen, I've been in Danny's position where it's like, hey, I like this person. Clearly they don't like me. I'm like talking to them and I know what the deal is. So I understand it. Maybe that's part of what was painful about it. But even I understand, like, you don't incessantly call someone over and over and over again if it's clear that they like don't want anything to do with you.
And at least you could do a thing where you're like, I mean, he's sort of doing the thing where he's being too chatty on the phone.
Mhm.
It would have
Yeah.
been so easy to do a thing where he's like, oh, I'm terrible with breaks. Oh, I'm the worst at these. I end up staying at work because I just don't know what to do with myself.
Mm.
Because there is nothing to fixate on in this 3 minutes other than the awkwardness of how clingy he's being and how much she's not into it. There is no other content to it.
And he's just talking. Like you said, like if he at least was like, what are you up to? And I know this is like a TV show, so they're not going to show the whole conversation, but it's very much like, hey, I want to take you out really badly, and I want to go take you on this day and this day, and we're going to have a great time. Do you want to? Like kind of putting the ball in her court, and she's like, I'm on vacation. Like, you can't. And that like kind of simmers in the back of your head for the entirety of the episode, where you're supposed to still be like, yeah, but like everything else is going on, and Danny's still like a competent producer and all this stuff, but like it's one of those. The other thing is like this happens, like Majan's saying, this happens in private all the time. Honestly, it's sad to say, but this is like a fairly common thing that happens in relationships. You just don't see it, and I think the discomfort here is very intentional. And when it finally comes to a head at the end, it's like weirdly satisfying, even though it doesn't end the way you want it to. So I can understand just being like kind of squirming in your seat throughout all of this, being like, when is it gonna blow? Like, when is she gonna finally talk to him and like say what she means about, like, what she feels about this? But with that in the back of her mind, Jordan is introduced to Hallie, who is the new head of alternative programming. And like I said in the summary, she calls it the head of illiterate programming. Because Aaron Sorkin hates reality TV shows more than anything else in the whole universe. And Six, this is for you. When she was like, no, there's good reality TV shows. I was like, yeah, talk about The Genius. Yes, talk about whatever equivalent. Talk about South Korean game shows. And she's like, yo, you heard of the Ed Sullivan Show? That's a reality show.
No,
like,
it's not.
It's literally not. It's a talk show. That's the different thing. Like
It's a talk show / talent show. Reality show doesn't mean the people aren't using pseudonyms. That's not the definition of a genre.
Very funny, especially because I would totally be the Hallie type here. That's like, no, there are good ones, I swear, but I wasn't gonna like that Sullivan Show. Like, come on, guys.
Yeah. You'd be like, crime scene.
Yeah, I'd be like, you got to watch Crime Scene, but only watch the first season and then stop for 2 years. That's the right way to do it. This was the moment, by the way, that I wrote as like, I finally can relate to Jordan, because her pregnant ass is being asked for her breakfast order. And she's like Swiss and mushroom omelet with crispy bacon on the side. And I'm like, damn,
and
I'm
pancakes.
really hungry. And pancakes, absolutely, of course, essential. And then she gets brought like soup and crackers or whatever. And Hallie's like, you didn't get your order. She's like, yeah, this is the meal I eat before my meal. Like, delivers it very just quickly and elegantly. I love it.
If this was the one joke about pregnant lady be hungry, this would be fine, but it is extremely not.
It's like the fifth one if you watch, especially because we're shotgunning 2 episodes, so you're just kind of like inundated with it. There's this whole side thing that I never kind of like felt like it wrapped around well, where Matt's reading the 48 Laws of Power, which is a book about like how you're supposed to run a like gang.
Oh, it wrapped around, bud.
Did it? Oh, well, yeah, I guess he talks about it at the end, but we'll get there.
No.
Well, it's basically, so he's naming all the different, it's pretty clunky, honestly, because Matt is sort of trying to riff on them, but he doesn't do any riffing. He just literally reads them.
Just saying, he basically says almost all of them.
Yeah. And then he's like continuing to riff on them, and then he riffs on them with Jordan, and he says like cultivating uncertainty to
an air of unpredictability, I think.
Yeah, air of unpredictability to keep people in suspense or something like that. And Jordan's like, oh, that's what that lady said I was doing.
Yeah, I thought this whole thing, this is, we're skipping around a bit in the episode, but I thought the whole thing was that I was too rude to this lady and I went and I apologized. But no, actually, she started the conversation by comparing me to a drug lord.
I think it was just... oh, this lady is like using her Machiavellian brilliance on me to get her show on the air. I think that's what it was trying to imply.
Well, I mean, she was directly quoting the 48 Laws of Power in reference to how Jordan behaves.
Yeah, but...
Oh, like maybe that woman read the book?
No, yes, definitely she read the book.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think the implication was like, she was doing some 3-dimensional chess of like I think she wouldn't have expected Jordan to read it because she didn't think that
so you think she was trying to rile Jordan up to get her to go over the line so that then she would like be acquiescing?
Yes.
I see. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So there's, a lot of scenes in this episode or plots about like women, like plays for women, kind of like courtship in a way. The other thing being that the whole Harriet, Luke, Matt love triangle, where Harriet's having Suzanne try to make Matt sign a petition for Women United for Faith, and he's like, they're bidding on Harriet. People are bidding to get dinner with her, and somebody bids like several like $100,000 at the beginning, and they're like, oh, it's like Luke something 69, and he's like, who is that? Wait, I know who that is. Wait a minute, I need to outbid him, but I don't want what is it? It's like, I don't want abstinence to get my money. So Suzanne, I want you to donate whatever I give over Luke to an equal amount to an anti-abstinence thing. And she's like, Matt, that's really stupid and childish of you. Anti-abstinence means pro-sex. And he's like, it's LA, they got plenty of that. Again, I laughed. I don't know if I ever am laughing because they want me to, but I thought that was very funny.
Yeah, I think Matt in this episode is like a little more charming than the last one.
Yeah. And then we get the Jack and Wilson White plot, which I really liked. I want to talk about this one. This is probably my favorite plot of this episode.
Okay.
I mean, a lot of them are. The thing is, a lot of these plots are compromised. This one, at the very least, is just straightforward. In the FCC meeting, one of the FCC guys is being a like cartoon asshole.
Well,
and
they're not meeting with the FCC. That's the board.
It's the board of directors. Yeah.
They're trying to decide what they're gonna do.
Sure. So that scene's not important. I'm gonna skip that part. But basically, Wilson White is talking about. He kind of reminds me of Charlie Skinner in this episode, in terms of like being the old guy with morals, which I appreciate.
Yeah, I agree.
And just he's talking about like, okay, if we're going to be outvoted, then I'm gonna get fired. This will be fine though. I'll vote. Let's just vote for me, or like we'll see. Go take a vote, and everybody votes against him, and he's like, huh. Well, I guess we got to go take a break. And I love that that's the moment where they actually take a break in the show. Again, I appreciate sometimes the show decides to be a little bit self-aware. I don't know. I just felt really weird about his character in this episode because he keeps talking about like, no, like Jack, I have a plan. Like I have a big brain plan that's going to get us, we're going to be so successful and we're not going to have to compromise anything to these board people. His plan is basically to have Mr. Tao to cancel the MACAO deal so that the opposition has no leverage for like
that's Jack's plan. Wilson White doesn't have any plan at all. He's just sort of an old guy who's like, hell yeah, let's ride.
Rides off into the sunset and realizes that doesn't have a motorcycle.
Yeah. And I don't know. I like the board scene, I guess, of Jack Rudolph calling the dude a moron just because the actor's really good at delivering that, and Ed Asner is also really good at I second that, and especially you're a moron. It's great. It wasn't clear to me, is Wilson White not in charge anymore? Did they vote him out, or was that just like a hypothetical vote?
You got this.
So basically, the vote was non-binding. Basically, it was a vote that was like, hey, if we want to make this a thing, you're gonna lose. And we're going to have to make this a thing. So he's like, okay, clearly the things are against me. Before we call this vote for real, I've got to change how things are going.
Which is that he has Jack,
because ultimately it's his like executive decision what he does, and they're just saying like, if you do it, we'll vote you out, basically.
Well, no, I think it's like he initially called, like, I think it's like it was a vote of no confidence, but I think you can't pull someone out with a single vote of no confidence. I think you need like two.
Oh, okay.
And so basically it was like, okay, that's one. If we get a second one, I'm in trouble. Let's fix this.
I see. And then Jack Rudolph's plan. It's a cute bit of writing where Ed Asner's like, the arts and leisure page is on the table, and Jack's like, okay, so? Like, who cares?
Cool.
And then he's like, oh, we can talk to Tao. His daughter is playing in town with the Juilliard is playing at USC or whatever it was, or I don't remember where. And then Wilson White is like, well, how do you know that? And Jack Rudolph's like, because I'm looking at it on the Arts and Leisure page. And then, yeah, his plan is I'm going to go meet Tao at this concert and convince him to drop NBS and their parent company from this MACAO deal on the basis of like, you're going to submit to the FCC. You don't have the honor that I'm looking for. So I'm dumping you. And then he goes and he talks to the guy, and it's kind of charming the way that he learns how to say man to man in Mandarin.
Mm-hmm.
And they have that whole exchange. And then we get into another situation where like the daughter wants to meet Tom Jeter and have dinner with him or go on a date with him or whatever. And it's like, okay, that's fine. The one bit of that really delighted me was that she wants to give up the viola to study improv comedy.
Wait,
which is
I just realized
basically what I did.
That's what you did. Hold on.
Because I played the viola in high school. So that was
that explains why you're here with us, idiots.
That was pretty relatable. But otherwise, I found the plot kind of I don't know. I didn't like it so much.
I mostly enjoyed this.
Yeah. No, go ahead.
I just mostly enjoyed it for the scene of the classical music playing while Jack Rudolph is like learning Chinese from a book and yelling it at like a bellhop or whatever.
Yeah.
I really only get my kicks out of Studio 60 in little moments like that where the characters I like are funny. The rest of it, I might as well delete my notes because I'm just like, stuff happens.
Mm-hmm. I also thought it was cute. I did like another little moment of like Kim translating for Jack and Jack being like translating everything, and then Jack being like, and I'll get you your daughter back, and Kim's like, hey, and then the mom translates instead. That was cute.
I don't understand Jack's plan there. Like, how is he's
gonna have her go to dinner with Tom, and he's gonna be like, Tom, you have to talk about how much being a comedian sucks, and you don't want her to do it.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. I guess here's my issue with the Jack Rudolph Wilson White plot is, first of all, I have no interest in the MACAO stuff at all in this like big merger. I don't want the corporate people to get their big merger. So like, I don't know. I guess it makes it feel a little better that Jack Rudolph is like taking a principled stance about like not wanting to censor the news or whatever. Mm-hmm. But my thing is like, this show is supposed to be a show about making a sketch comedy show. At least that's what I signed up for. And then it feels like that whole plot isn't really about that. And I don't
you should have looked at the contract closer when you signed up.
Yeah, right. I should have read between the lines. And I have no interest in Aaron Sorkin telling stories further up the chain of command. I'd rather he told stories further down the chain of command. And again, we've talked about this, like, it's a much more interesting show if Darius is the POV character, for example, if it's a show that's about like the actors and the writers and the crew, and the executive producers are like towards the top, and Jordan McDeere maybe floats in, Jack Rudolph maybe floats in. But when the show is centered on the executive producers, and you see like further up the chain and then down, I'm less interested in that because it gets abstracted away from like the premise of the show, I feel like.
I mean, I feel like I would want sort of a Tale of Two Cities thing where I would love it like it being like Darius and Jack, right? The two sides of it.
Sort of like a upstairs downstairs Downton
Abbey. Totally.
Yes.
Okay.
The problem is that I don't like Danny and Matt, and they hit the exact medium spot where they're not powerful enough that the moves they're making are inherently interesting because of like scale and audacity, but they're also not likable or relatable.
Right.
They're also still rich guys in Hollywood.
Yeah, they're also still the people who are like, hey, make a bunch of like interns, fax recommendations to the person I'm trying to date. Oh, who cares what their names are? Why would I know an intern's name?
Yeah, that literally.
You're not the good person here.
He's like the nice guy.
I honestly can't believe that it is a protagonist plan to have interns whose names you don't know and force them to send faxes to your would-be girlfriend about how cool you are. It's one of the shittiest things anyone on the show has ever done.
It's so, the whole plot, it's bizarre. It's like impossible to read how the show is trying to present it to you, because he's like, oh, I know, letters of recommendation. And it's like, what? No, that doesn't make any sense at all. That's an insane thing. And the show's kind of trying to say that he's like doing too much and being creepy and being stalkery. And then we get to the moment, if just to fast forward to that last scene where Jordan pulls him onto the stage, and she's like, Danny, you gotta stop. And Amanda Peet really sells how like scared Jordan is of Danny continuing to do this. She's creeped out. She's uncomfortable. She just needs him to stop. And she's like on the verge of tears, basically. And Danny's like, and it's embarrassing for her because he's basically told everyone they know, like, hey, Jordan's this pregnant lady that I'm trying to shack up with. Can you write her a letter? So he's embarrassed her. And then he's like, hey, I'm sorry I embarrassed you and all that. And she's like, so you're going to stop? And he's like, no. And then the music is sort of like, oh, it's sad that Danny didn't get to be with the woman he loves. Instead of like, this dude's creepy.
This dude said he would pursue her and meant it.
Right.
Yeah, it's a really rough note to end on. But we have one other sort of major side plot that I enjoyed, or at least I want to talk about.
Yeah.
So just getting back to the writers and the smaller writing staff now, we have Darius, who is pitched a concept for like a tough guy member of the Fruit of the Loom, which again, 2006. He's pitched it by Simon, and he initially doesn't want to do the sketch, and we don't understand why, so he passes it off to Lucy so she can pitch the sketch, and he's not like, he's not the person whose name is on it. And when Simon comes up to him later and is like, hey, like, that was a freebie, like I gave you a good sketch so that you could pitch it and that they would be like your work and see you as better. And he's like, did you not take it because you didn't want to be the black guy who ended up having to do that type of sketch? And I mean, this scene is like such a weirdly intense and well acted moment in the rest of a very silly episode. But Simon and Darius yelling at each other, and then Darius kind of goes all the way over and is like, he does an impression of like a stereotypical like black slave character, and like drops the N-word at Simon. And he's like, thank you so much, Master, for giving me this like amazing opportunity that I wasn't going to get on my own. To which you'd think that Simon would be shut down, but he's hot-headed, and he's like, actually, you need to go away. You don't get to do that anymore. You have to close this conversation and get the fuck out. Log off. Like, I wanted more of that.
Yeah.
And I liked that exchange because I really appreciate, like, I think Simon is in the wrong here, right?
Sure, yeah.
I think like this whole framing of like you owe me now, I saved your career, you have to do what I tell you, is a load of shit. Like, no, you gave him the job. If I was
told that, I would also tell someone to fuck off.
Right.
Yes.
But I also really appreciate, like, this isn't one of the moments. It would be so easy to do this in television where Darius says this and Simon is like, oh wait, I was over the line. No, that's not how this goes. At this point, both of them are too emotionally invested, and even if Simon realizes at some point he's mad, it's not right now, or he's wrong, it's not right now where he is literally too pissed to see reason. I really appreciate him being like, I can't say that word because I'm going to get called out by Magellan's mom. Screw you.
Yeah, screw you.
The specter of Magellan's mom FCC looms over my head.
Looms over like TJ Eichelberg in his glasses.
Yeah. I do see where Simon's coming from here also. I also think that he's in the wrong, but he's coming from a place that I can understand, because for him, it's like, at least I don't know the racial makeup of the crew in the show because we don't see them very much, but the creative staff, like the actors and writers, I mean, not to say the crew isn't creative, but the actors and writers, Simon is the only black person that we see.
Mm-hmm.
And so for him, part of the joy of bringing Darius on the show is like, finally, here is this part of my identity and part of the way that I interact with the world and the world interacts with me, that like I can have someone here who understands that, and we can make comedy out of that, because there's so much comedy in that none of the other people, actors or writers, are able to explore because it's not their experience and they don't get it. And so
he's giving them our jokes.
And yeah, and so Simon's really upset because he wanted to do this, like, this thing that to him, you know, he needs to have someone else who's black for this particular sketch to like figure it out. And instead he gets stuck with like the super white British lady who's like, oh yeah, I'm going to make the character say, you wanker, you prat. And he's like, this sucks. This is what I've been doing for years already.
And it's even easier to understand where he's coming from, because we've already had established in episodes like episode like 2 or 3, like way long ago, that it's not that they weren't doing like humor like angled at black people. It was like previous writers were being like, hey Simon, can you do a Bill Cosby voice? It was like It was like yikes territory.
Yeah, and we saw a clip of him being like on a sketch called Pimp My Tricycle or whatever. It's they're doing shit like that.
It's like white people like writing like these parodies of black culture, and so I absolutely understand Simon being like, no, I want a black writer and a black actor to come together and make something that's authentically of our culture, and not a white person creating this like grotesque parody of it.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, it really is. It again, it's a story that like feels native to the premise of this is about a sketch comedy show, and it's about the people involved, and it's about the making of it and how that can get really personal. And I don't think that Aaron Sorkin is the right person to handle it, because he is so interested in the like politicking of the network level and the board members and stuff. And I think he does this capably, this interaction between Darius and Simon, and sets up this plot, but then doesn't really pay it off. And it seems like this episode is like a part 1 for the next one, so maybe it gets paid off in a way that works. I'm not sure.
So, as I say, I was around when the show was being watched. I was not really watching myself, and there was, I referenced before, there was one thing still to come that I remembered. We are going to see this sketch, and it is
the Fruit of the Loom sketch?
It is both unbelievably unfunny and racist.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
That's so sad.
It's a really unfortunate payoff to this setup, which I think is quite good.
It's good, yeah. And I think with the kind of benefit that they get with the show is that sometimes the sketch can be bad, but the circumstances around it can be good, which it sounds like this is an example of that. Because like these two guys are important characters to the show, working to like the fundamental like premise of the show, which is that it's about sketch comedy and the people who make it, and you need to represent that. So like this is a good scene that's like, again, contained in such a wacky episode, and I hope it pays off in a way, even though this sounds like the sketch is bad, I hope that their relationship evolves somewhere good.
Yeah. And
that they don't just hate each other after this.
Yeah, it's just so hard when, I mean, like, you're having these characters who are so obsessed about the process and self-congratulatory and talking about how like the proud tradition, and then it feels like all set up to this like this always this wet fart.
Right.
Like if you're gonna go through all the trouble to set up the sketch, to make the sketch decent, but it never is.
Right.
So that's where that plot is for now. And then the last major one that I have is the reality show woman Hallie talking to Jordan and like kind of pitching her all these different shows. There's that really bad show she pitches her called All You Need Is Love, which, as I understood it, is just that people ask for forgiveness for bad things that they did, and then they are happy at the end of it. which is kind of a funny response to everyone being like, oh, every reality show is about people hating each other and like coming to hate each other, which is a fair critique of 2006 reality television.
Mm-hmm.
But this like, and then everyone is happy is like how we get shows like Intervention, where the whole thing is the moment of like, and then they all hug at the end because they're gonna get better. Yay.
But also, like, her first example is like a Catholic priest and like the people he abused, and it's like, yikes, dog.
That sucked. Whoa, that sucked. I don't want to watch that on TV.
No, thank you. I hated that this seemed at first like it was going to be a rivalry, like the way that the Darius Simon stuff. I was like, please don't start making these two fight. This is another one where I was like, don't give Jordan like a rival who hates her because this woman is like playing 4-dimensional chess with her, and like, oh, like I called Jack before speaking to you, and I pitched him the sketch so that I could circumvent you, and now you're gonna feel slighted. And she says the line, "There's another pretty girl at the dance, and this one's not pregnant." Which I do appreciate. Then immediately, then Harriet and Jordan are talking. She's like, "Did she really say there's another pretty girl and this one's not pregnant?" She's like, "Yo, she said it." That's a nice moment, but yeah.
I also did like TV characters never tell each other the things that they said, which in other episodes of this I found it annoying that all that Sorkin characters were like, "Whoa, this Sorkin plot is crazy." But in that scene, I actually kind of liked it because Harriet was like, she just said that unprovoked, and then Jordan's like, well, I did say she was the vice president of illiterate programming.
Yeah, I did say that, didn't I?
It's like, that's a very shitty thing to say.
Yeah,
That's
I do.
horrible.
You do also because the actress playing Harriet often does a very good job, and it's a great moment of you being like, I want to be here for my friend, and I'm like, yeah, you were in the right. Oh no, you kind of weren't, bud.
Yeah,
it's like when you hear about your friend's like bad breakup, and you're like, and then what did she say to you? And then he's like, oh, and then she called me an asshole and a liar. And then you're like, yeah, what did you say? And then he's like, yeah, I lied to her. Oh,
yeah, she was right. I did that. Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate respectful or like a good friend Harriet here. And then basically this wraps up with Jordan doing the only like good moment of like reaching across the aisle in this entire episode, where she goes up to Hallie at the gym, and after all this stuff being like, you can't be mean to your employees, like you have to be nice to them, which I wish everybody in the show would learn. She goes up to her and she's like, hey, that was actually super shitty what I said, and you work for me and I appreciate you, and I shouldn't have said that about your whole job. That's really mean. I'm sorry. Let's get off on the right foot next time. And it's like, okay, wow, that was weird. Conflict resolution in an Aaron Sorkin show in this economy?
Alan, oh, you're so beautifully naive.
It's going to go bad again, isn't it?
Yes, they're going. You said like, oh, I'm so glad they're not going to be rivals. They're going to be rivals, dude.
No, I want to die.
That's what this is going to be.
I don't need Jordan to just you've ruined Jordan. She wasn't even like amazing to begin with, and you've somehow ruined her. I love this show. It's my favorite show. But that's actually, I think going through this, that's kind of all I got. The other like gag scene that I wanted to comment on from my notes was that Tom is like proposing a bit to Matt or Danny, and he's like, yeah, the bit is called Dolphin Girl, and Harriet's gonna be Dolphin Girl.
That. Oh,
that's
I love
such.
that.
I'm shocked that's not a real SNL sketch. It's a good sketch idea. It's simple.
It's extremely like. The actress playing Harriet did that sound, and they're like, we can just do a little thing off of this.
Do this, yeah.
And it works.
I loved it.
Yeah. He's like, the whole thing is she's a cute girl, and you ask her out, but every time she laughs, she goes, look, it does a perfect dolphin noise. Sarah Paulson's dolphin noise is, it's flawless. And they're like, that's it. That's the whole joke. It's just like, we got Sarah Paulson to do his voice, and it's good, and we're going to put it in the show. I like that Matt's like, yep, print it, do it. It's a good sketch. Yeah. No approval needed beyond this. But yeah, all the stuff loops around. And again, we end with, and we have that scene where Kim and her mom and Tao are talking to Jack, and he gets them to do the deal. I don't know how much longer they can drag out this MACAO plot line. Probably till the end of the season at this point, right? Yeah, I don't see why not. It can keep being like, when I finally thought it was out of steam, they were like, actually the FCC is involved now, and I'm like, God damn it.
Yeah, I don't want to see any more MACAO.
But if I get to see more Jack Rudolph, then I'm happy about it.
Jack Rudolph is great, yeah.
And yeah, the most disappointing, sad ending of ever, where Jordan is a whole ass real person, and is like, Danny, you gotta stop. You can't keep calling me. People know about this now. It's uncomfortable. Don't do it anymore. I'm not interested. And he's like, I'm gonna keep pursuing you. Can't stop me. And it's like, no. I don't want to see my boy get ruined anymore. It's fine. I'm fine with it. I can't get too attached, especially when people start saying stuff like, I'll pursue you.
I did have one more laugh of the episode, but otherwise that's all I got, which
I'm emotionally spent.
Which is, I don't remember the scene, but there's a scene, I think it's that scene where they're pitching the Dolphin Girl thing, and then Tom is like, hey, I want to ask Lucy out, and Matt's like, well, you got to be nice to her because she just got broken up with. And then there's a whole bit at the end where Lucy's like, can I go on a date for Thursday? And then she tries to make up a lie about like what she was saying to Matt when Tom comes in, but then she can't. And she's like, I was also asking
for Thursday.
That's funny. But the laugh I had was after everybody leaves Matt's office in that earlier scene, he kind of looks into the room and says goodnight to the empty room.
Yeah.
Because there's nobody in
Nice.
there. It's so funny. I think it could have just been improvised by Matthew Perry. That's how real it
Entirely
seems.
possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should start noting down our laughs of the episode, because they've gotten few and far between for me, but when they happen, they really do. It does work.
I mean, I think that's the intoxicating thing about watching a Sorkin show is like,
It always approaches. It's like an absolute value, an absolute limit, where it's like it comes so close sometimes.
yeah, there's always a little fun. In every episode, there's always something that you're like, okay, that's fun. That's good. And
I
just so
laughed.
much
I smiled.
Not good.
I chuckled a teensy bit.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, my other one from from the second of this one was when Suzanne is asking Matt for a username, and he's like, make one up, and she's like, let me see, Boss Sexy.
Boss
He's like, no,
Sexy.
don't call me Boss Sexy. And she's like, too late, I already made the name. Suzanne's so good. That's all I got, folks. Any other notes or things you want to talk about?
Nah, I'm out.
I'm tapped. I'm spent. I'm emotionally exhausted from these episodes.
I still like the
and
show. I still like it. It's bad.
I like
but
talking
still
about it with
like
my friends Magellan 6. That's my favorite thing about Studio 60.
I almost just kept watching when this one was done.
Really? You didn't want to end on such a sour note?
Yeah, I did. That's what it was. Yeah, I wanted to cleanse the palate a little bit.
Like I need to get something else. You watched like a good episode of something afterwards.
The problem is, Sorkin shows never end well.
No.
So this is just going to keep going downhill.
Only 5 more weeks, y'all.
You're right.
10 more episodes. 10 delicious episodes. Magellan, we're past the point that you watched before, right? So you've never seen the rest of this show.
I'm not sure. I've definitely seen this one, actually. I thought that I had only watched up to Nevada Day, but that wasn't true. I definitely had seen parts of one or both of the ones that we watched this week. So I'm not sure where I stopped before. But anyway, I can tell you what we're watching next week.
Yeah, baby, we're watching a 2-parter. I'm excited.
Yeah, we're watching actually parts 2 and 3 of a 3-parter.
Oh, right. Technically, yeah. They're
Yeah.
titled a 2-parter, but Monday it definitely segues into these two. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're watching episodes 13 and 14 of Studio 60 on the Sunset Strip, The Harriet Dinner and The Harriet Dinner Part 2. In The Harriet Dinner, the description says, in the second episode of a three-part episode.
Useless.
Oh, sorry.
Thanks.
I read that wrong. Let me take it again. First, The Harriet Dinner. In the second part of a 3-part episode, Danny and Jordan get locked on the roof of the theater while other members of the cast and staff attend a dinner honoring Harriet. Oof. Okay.
Bottle episode.
14, The Harriet Dinner Part 2. In the third part of a 3-part episode, Danny and Jordan are still locked on the roof of the theater during a dinner honoring Harriet, whose relationship with Matt continues to unravel.
Good. That could honestly be kind of fun.
Yeah, it could be fun.
It's going to be pretty quirky.
It's gonna be a quirky girl.
Torturous. It could be bad, but we shall see.
Guess so.
Let's take it to the close, folks.
Yes. So, can I do this?
Sure.
Thanks. So you can get in touch with the show in a number of different ways. You can email us at chatspod@gmail.com. You can follow us on Twitter. Tweet at us, twitter.com/chatspod. You can join the community of Chat's listeners over at the subreddit set up by our brothers at Infinite War, Nick and Pat, over at reddit.com/r/chatspod. And all of those are spelled CHATZPOD, in case you weren't sure how to spell it, because it's spelled in kind of a fun way. It's a little different than you might expect. If you'd like to support the show, you can do so over at patreon.com/chatspod, where there are a number of different levels at which you can support. You can support at $1, and that'll give you access to just like bonus shows that we feel like doing when we feel like doing them. So right now that includes my solo coverage of the X-Files called the Chats Files. You can check it out over there. At $3, you get access to our thrice monthly bonus content that comes out on a very regular basis. And those could include us piloting other shows, doing commentaries on movies, or just kind of talking about whatever we feel like talking about. Voted on by you, the listener. Pretty fun.
Whoa!
Or you can support us at $5 a month, which currently is just because you love us and because 5 is a nice, even, beautiful number.
It's actually an odd number.
Well, that's true. It's a beautiful odd number, just like us. Anyway, we always end the show by talking about our chatsums, little things that you can snack on between now and next time, little recommendaciones. And Six, since you're the guest here, would you like to give us your chatsum first?
Sure. So, for a long time, I've had my eye on the tabletop game Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective, but it's been out of print for some time and much in demand. But they have reprinted it with a bunch of different editions. So basically, the premise of Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective is you are a member of the Baker Street Irregulars. If you're not up on your Holmes fiction, it's basically a group of Londonites who are information gatherers for Sherlock Holmes, right? And you have a set of cases. I think the version I got came with 10 cases, and it's like, okay, this is a case that Sherlock Holmes has solved. He's already figured it out, and he's like, oh, I'm going to explain things in a minute, but do you want to just go around and gather evidence and see if you can figure it out yourself? Because he's a condescending jerk, because that's Sherlock Holmes for you. And so you go to various, you have a map of London, and you go to places, and if you go to places that are relevant to the case, you'll get to do an interview, and there's a newspaper for the day, and you're searching it for clues. It's really cool. It's a cooperative game for 2 to 4 people, and it's fun. You should play it.
Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Alan, what's your chatsum?
I've been playing a lot of multiplayer stuff lately, trying to bond with friends beyond just my Final Fantasy XIV crew. And the one that I've been enjoying the most lately is the newly updated Apex Legends, which is a battle royale first-person shooter on the PC, the Xbox One, and the PlayStation 4. Basically, the people who made Titanfall made a class-based first-person shooter battle royale, and it's free to play, and it's sick. Six, you're a bit more professional with this game. You have many more wins under your belt. I've only had a single win under my belt in my entire Apex career.
Yeah, I tend to get 1 to 2 wins a day because I'm playing every day now.
Yeah, once you get into the loop of those games, it seems like you can just rack up wins pretty straight easily.
Mm-hmm.
The new stuff with Season 5, besides the new character Loba, whose kit seems weird and design seems even weirder, everything else seems really good. One of the things I always wanted when that game launched was can we just get more than one map? And there's more than one map. Yeah, I was like, when are they going to have different modes beyond trios? And I put stuff in beyond besides just trios, as in teams of 3. It's really fleshed itself out in the past year, I think.
Mm-hmm. And I think it hits a really great balance between being it's not the codifier of the genre, PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, where it's all that matters is how good of a shot you are. Versus Fortnite, where it's very much about how good are you at the abilities and stuff. I feel like it hits a very nice sweet spot where you don't have to be Mr. Counter-Strike to succeed here, but also you feel rewarded for your investment.
Yeah, even a 5-minute game will feel somewhat satisfying to me because I'll have an interesting engagement. I'll learn something small. I'll find some nuance in the map, and you're always building a skill And it has good progression systems on not all of these battle royales too. Like sometimes you just finish a game and you're done, but this one's like, no, you're always getting something. I enjoyed it a lot. People should try it out. It's free. You can't go wrong with it. It's Apex Legends. Magellan, what about you?
My Chatsum this time around is a podcast recommendation. Folks, listeners to the show know that I love Star Wars. And in particular, I've always been a big fan of the Knights of the Old Republic games and that specific era of Star Wars, the Old Republic era. And I was just searching around for a podcast, if there were podcasts that talked about KOTOR or anything like that. And I found a show called A People's History of the Old Republic. And what they do is they go through all of the extended universe fiction and properties related to that era of Star Wars, and they just tell you what the heck happened. They give you a little history of it. And they also weave in some real world context of like when the things were created and some of the reasons why I like that they're very open about the fact that, yeah, some of the reasons the details don't add up is because they were made by different people at different times, and it's just not consistent, and we can try to figure out how to iron out the consistencies. And it just deals directly with like canon making and meaning making out of this particular era of Star Wars. So if you're a Star Wars guy like me, and you're into the Old Republic like me, then People's History of the Old Republic is worth a listen.
So did they call it People's History of the Old Republic because it shortens to FOTOR?
Uh-huh. They say FOTOR, yeah.
Dang. Okay, I thought I was clever.
Well, you are. You're as clever as they are.
If not more. Wink.
True.
Well, folks, that is going to do it for this episode of Studio 60 on the Sunset Chats. Thank you, as always, to Six Detmar and Magellan Fluke for being the two rocks to my one hard place. And thank you so much for listening to this episode of Sunset Chats. Let's restart the clock. Hey, everybody. It's Alan. I'm recording this outro at 2 in the morning right now. The day before it releases, just like the olden days. I was listening to an old Freaks Chats episode recently, and we were talking about how late we were recording and how I was excited to go to sleep or whatever. And it's like, do you remember staying up late to podcast, Magellan, if you're listening to this? We haven't done it in a while because we both have very exhausting day jobs, and I don't know, I'm just like, the only ways that I can ever go to bed this late are when I got up really late, which I did today, and I either have some tea or something to keep me going. And I had a bunch of tea today, so I also was doing work at home, and as well as homework. But none of that is here, nor is it there. It's time for the present day update of Chats, the Television podcast. If you're listening to this on February 22nd, 2021, then the most recent Patreon content we have over on our wonderful Patreon, patreon.com/chatspod, since last week is the Chats Files, episode 26, wherein Magellan discovered the joys of Fluke Man and has embodied that title himself. Enter Fluke Man. We have also released a very fun pilot chats, a double pilot chats for the 2019 Good Omens adaptation on Amazon, as well as the very engaging, very interesting Angels in America classic HBO miniseries, which it's, spoiler alert, might be coming up soon in the Chats season. You'll have to listen to that episode to find out for sure, though. And we also have a March content poll, which is very exciting and has a ton of options because it's all of the stuff that has not won previous polls before they get taken out of the rotation. So if you're a patron, please go vote in that March content poll so we know what we're watching in March. There's a lot of fun stuff in there. Oh man, Sopranos, 6 Feet Under, Wild Wild West. You guys, you gotta get us to watch Wild Wild West. Come on now. That movie's pushing into, like, I'm gonna make Magellan watch it. I've never seen it myself, but I've always wanted to. And let's talk about this episode that we just listened to, yeah? SunsetChatz. This was a weird one for me. I actually, in editing it, remembered a specific weird moment where I was like, ooh, I wasn't, like, on my A game with that comment there. I'm not gonna get into it, but I was just like, I've said it before, but SunsetChatz is a weird one because covering an Aaron Sorkin show is just it's a really specific challenge, because as we kind of tap into occasionally in this discussion, you can tell he wants you to hate some of his characters, but it never feels like it's justified in a cool way. It just feels like an alien wrote this show. And Magellan had just in our if you're a patron, you'll see in our patron Discord, he posted a Matt and Harriet mashup video set to music. I forget what those are called. They're not AMVs. It's like a live action AMV basically. And the person in the description was like, I love Aaron Sorkin so much. I love this show. I binged it in like a day. Like that video, y'all, came out in like May of 2020. Like, people are thinking about Studio 60 and loving it in the present day. And I would love to have those brainworms. I always like liking things, and imagine just uncritically liking Aaron Sorkin. Wouldn't that be interesting? Wouldn't that be a fascinating alternate life to have? That's what I'm saying. But yeah, the Studio 60 continues to be an interesting challenge for us as podcasters, because I sincerely do think parts of it are really fascinating and cool. And then other parts are completely infuriating. So, so it goes. But that's what I have for y'all. That's what I've brought to the table tonight. I want to bid you all a very farewell. A very farewell? Who writes this? Not me, apparently, because this is all off the top of my 2 a.m. dome. Thanks again for listening to this episode of Sunset Chats. We will see you next week. Peace.